Hello everyone, good morning. I hope you all will be safe and sound. As we are discussing in the history and in the third chapter, we have discussed somewhat about that is permanent settlement, which was introduced by the Lord Cornwallis, and what happened under this permanent settlement we have discussed. So after this one, when many of the problems these were being faced by the British East India Company, then a new system is devised, a new system that was introduced over there. So what was this system? So let's have a discussion what they have given here. By the early 19th century, many of the company officials were convinced that the system of revenue had to be changed again. As in the permanent settlement, the whatever the revenue, whatever the taxes they were taking, so it was fixed permanently. So by the beginning of the 19th century, in the starting of the 19th century, what happened? The company officials, these all were convinced, these all were felt that the system of revenue had to be changed again. Whatever the system of revenue that has been introduced by them, that was permanent settlement, it had to change again. How could revenue be fixed permanently at a time when the company needed more money to meet its expenses of administration and trade? So that is why this question has been raised by themselves. How the revenue could be fixed permanently? Because as the company needed more money to meet its expenses, whatever the expenses of the company, for it more money is needed, more financial resources were needed of administration as well as for the trade. Then what happens? See, in the northwestern provinces of the Bengal Presidency, most of this area is now in Uttar Pradesh. An Englishman called Holt Mechanized devised the new system which came into effect in 1822. So mainly in the northwestern provinces of Bengal, mainly the most of the area now that is in Uttar Pradesh, one Englishman named as Holt Mechanized, he devised a new policy, he devised a new system which came into effect in 1822. What the system he just made, see, he felt that the village was an important social institution in North Indian society and needed to be preserved. So he felt, and he just observed over there in the northwestern part mainly, he told that whatever the villages are there, these are the main and these are the important social institution, and these society and these villages need to be preserved, need to be saved, need to be secured. Under his direction, collector went from village to village, inspecting the land, measuring the field, and recording the custom and rights of different groups. So under his direction, under the direction of the Holt Mechanized, whoever the collectors were appointed, so they went village to village and they just observed, they just checked, they just inspected whatever the land is available in these villages, measuring the field areas as well as recording their customs and rights of the different groups. Whatever the different social groups at that time, they were staying, they were made their settlement in the villages. So they inspected and they observed each and everything. Then after this one, the estimated revenue of each plot within a village was added up to calculate the revenue that each village mahal had to pay, and this demand was to be revised periodically, not permanently fixed. Then what happened after inspecting the land, after inspecting the field area and all the things, after getting the records about the villages? So what happened? A new system that was introduced, that was estimated the revenue of each plot means to say each land within a village was added up to calculate the revenue, whatever the production that would be from the particular land. So according to this one, the revenue was fixed for this particular land, okay, of that particular each village, and these villages and the group of villages came to be known as mahal, and they had to pay the revenue to the company. This demand was to be revised periodically, and periodically means to say within a fixed period of time it will be changed, it will be revised. That was not permanently fixed. The charge of collecting the revenue and paying it to the company was given to the village headsman. So after this one, what happened? Whatever the collecting means the revenue of the villages, so and paying to the company. So for this one, they had just appointed village headmen rather than the jamidars. So the village headman was appointed by the company for collecting the revenue from the villagers, and after collecting it, the village headman had to pay it to the company. And this system came to be known as the Mahalwadi settlement. So this system, which was introduced by the Hald mechanized, so this system came to be known as Mahalwadi settlement. Okay. Then after this one, the Monroe system. What they have given in this one? See, in the British territories in the south, there were a similar move away from the ideas of permanent settlement. So we have talked about the northwestern part of the country. So after this one, the British territories, which were just controlled by the Britishers, mainly by the company, in the south as well, there was the same move away from the idea of the permanent settlement. So there as well, they wanted to just remove and they wanted to move away from the idea of permanent settlement. Okay. Then a new system that was devised came to be known as Rayatwari or Rayatvars. Okay, here one system that was introduced in the southern part of our country, and it came to be known as Rayatwar or Rayatwari settlement. It was tried on a small scale by Captain Alexander Reed in some of the areas that were taken over by the company after the wars with Tipu Sultan. So mainly this system, it was tried to initiate by the Captain Alexander. Okay, and what happened in some areas, whatever the some provinces of the Tipu Sultan, it was taken by the company. So he just observed this particular area or region, and it was under his control. Then what happened? See, subsequently developed by the Thomas Munro, this system was gradually extended all over South India. Then after this one, the same thing, it was initiated and it was developed by the Thomas Munro, okay, one of the company official, and then this system gradually extended all over the South India and came to be known as Munro system. Reed and Munro felt, the Reed and the Munro, two persons who were there, so Alexander Reed and the Munro, they felt that in the south there were no traditional jamidars. So the Alexander Reed as well as the Munro, they both felt in south regions mainly there were no traditional jamidars. This settlement, they argued, had to be made directly with the cultivators. These were known as the ryots, who had tilled the land for generations. So what happened, as there wasn't any traditional jamidars in the southern part, so they just made the settlement like this directly with the cultivators who used to cultivate the land, and these cultivators came to be known as ryots. And they were tilling their land, they were doing the production in their land for generations, means for a long time. Their fields had to be carefully and separately surveyed before the revenue assessment was made. And whatever these cultivators were having the land over there, it was totally separately, carefully, it was surveyed by them, and then the revenue assessment was made by them. Munro thought that the British should act as paternal father figures, protecting the ryots under their charge. So the Britishers, whoever the company officials were there, they just act as a paternal fathers, means like a guardian for them, for protecting the ryots, protecting the cultivators under their charge. Then all was not well. And whatever the things, whatever the policies, whatever the settlements, these all were initiated by the Britishers. So these were not so much well. Why it is so? That has been given. See, within a few years after the new system was imposed, it was clear that all was not well with them. Whatever the system, Munro system that has been introduced over there, imposed over the cultivators, so at last, after a few years, that has been just felt, it was not all well with them. Driven by these desires to increase the income from land revenue, officials fixed too high a revenue demand. So what happened? That is driven by the desire to increase, as desire, more eagerness to increase the income from the land. So the revenue officials fixed too high a revenue demand. A huge amount of revenue they were asking from the cultivators and peasants. Peasants who were unable to pay, riots fled the countryside and villages became deserted in many regions. So after this one, by getting the fear from the Britishers, so these peasants, they were unable to pay to the company. So these cultivators, these riots fled. Fled means they ran away the countryside. They just left their land and they ran away to the other parts of the country. And the villages became deserted. Mean to say all the villagers, they have left their villages and these many regions became desert. Optimistic officials had imagined that the new system would transform the peasants into rich enterprising farmers, but this didn't happen. As when this system was introduced by the company officials, they were hopefully thinking and they were hopefully just imagining that this new system will give more and more revenue to the company, as well as it will just make more rich to the farmers, but this didn't happen. Then crops for Europe. So whatever the Indian cultivators and Indian peasants over there, how they just produced and how they produce the different kind of the crops for exporting to the European continent. This thing has been given here. See, the British also realized that the countryside could not only yield revenue. So later on, whoever the British officials, whoever the company officials over there, they felt and they realized that the countryside could not be yield revenue. Whoever the other parts of the country, so these were not only producing revenue. Yield means they were not getting the revenue from the other parts of the country. Then it could also grow the crops that Europe required. So these company officials, they felt that whatever the other part of the country, so it could also just increase the revenue for them and they can grow the crops in these parts. By the late 18th century, the company was trying its best to expand the cultivation of opium and indigo. So by the in the end of the 18th century, the company officials and the company was trying to its best to expand the cultivation. Means the company wanted more and more cultivation of opium and indigo. Mainly we will come to know about opium and the indigo in upcoming part of the same chapter. That is indigo. It is a one kind of plant which is mainly used for dyeing of the clothes. Okay, like we use to different kind of the clothes. Okay, different colors. So the indigo plant that is used for dyeing of the clothes. And mainly it gives the rich blue color. And the opium, it is mainly used for the drugs. Okay, in this these two, both, that is opium and indigo, they were in a huge demand in the European market at that time. Okay, in the century and a half that followed, the British persuaded or forced cultivators in various parts of India to produce other crops: jute in Bengal, tea in Assam, sugarcane in United Provinces, now Uttar Pradesh, and wheat in Punjab, cotton in Maharashtra and Punjab, rice in Madras. So what they have given here, in the century and a half that followed in the same century, so the Britishers, what they did, they just persuaded, they just made agree or forced to the cultivators or peasants or farmers in the various parts of India to produce the different kind of the crops in their fields, like jute in Bengal, tea in Assam, sugarcane in United Provinces, now that is in UP, and wheat in Punjab, cotton in Maharashtra and Punjab, and rice in Madras. How was this done? The British used a variety of methods to expand the cultivation of crops that they needed. Okay, whatever the Britishers they wanted at that time, so they just tried to expand their cultivation by forcing and by persuading to the peasants. Then let us take a closer look at the story of one such crop, one such method of production. So downside, what they have given, see, two pics they have shown here. That is one kalamkari print that is made by the mainly with the help of the cotton, okay, with the help of the silk, a Morris cotton print, okay, in the late 19th century, and they were in the different color. So these two print, you can see and these production were being done in our country, as well as these were dyed, they were dyed mainly with the help of the indigo plants. इनको डाई जो किया गया, इनमें जो कलर बैठा गया, that is with the help of the indigo plants. Again, so what they have given, see here, does color have a history? So here you can see both the figures, and it shows the different kind of the print, that is kalamkari, which were created by the weavers of Andhra Pradesh in India. On the right in the floral cotton print, designed and produced by William Morris, a famous poet and artist of 19th century in Britain. There is one thing common in two prints. Both used a rich blue color. As I have already told to you, both used for dyeing them, so rich blue color was just used, so commonly called indigo. Do you know how this color was produced? The blue that you see in these prints were produced from a plant called indigo. It is likely that the blue dye used in the Morris print in the 19th century Britain was manufactured from indigo plants cultivated in India. So whatever this they have told about the example they have given about the Morris, so he made this print with the help of the indigo plantation, and this particular thing Morris has produced and manufactured from indigo plant which were cultivated in India. For India was the biggest supplier of indigo in the world at the time. So for this one, for dyeing the clothes, so India was the biggest supplier of indigo plant in the world at the time. Why the demand of indigo, Indian indigo? Why the demand of the Indian indigo? That has been given the example here. So why it is so? See, the indigo plant grows primarily in the tropics. Mainly India is having the tropical climate, okay, and as well as the monsoony climate. So this plant mainly grows in the tropical climate. By the 13th century, Indian indigo was being used by cloth manufacturers in Italy, France, and Britain to dye clothes. Mainly they have given the example of the 13th century. So Indian indigo that was used for the cloth manufacturers who used to manufacture the clothes mainly in the different parts, mainly in Italy, France, and Britain, for dyeing their clothes. However, only small amount of Indian indigo reached to the European market, and its prices was very high. Whereas the production was very less, so definitely a very small amount of the indigo it reached to the European market, and its price was so high over there. Then European cloth manufacturers therefore had to depend on another plant called wood to make violet and blue dyes. So that is why whoever the other cloth manufacturers in the European market, so they had to depend on the another plant called wood, and which was also give the violet and blue dyes and blue colors. Being a plant of the temperate zone, wood was more easily available in Europe, as this was the plant of the temperate zone, temperate climate. So the wood, this plant was easily available in the Europe. It was grown in the northern Italy, southern France, and in parts of Germany, and producers that is parts of Germany and Britain. So this plant mainly it was grown in the different parts that, as they have told, in Italy, in France, as well in parts of Germany and Britain. Worried by the competition from indigo, wood producers in Europe pressurized their government to ban the import of indigo. So worried, they got fear, whoever the wood producers were there, who were just producing the wood plants over there, worried by it, by getting the fear from the competition with the Indian indigo. So they pressurized to the European government, to their government, to ban on the import of indigo in the European market. Then cloth dyers, however, preferred indigo as a dye. Whoever the cloth dyers were there who used to dye the clothes, so they prefer indigo as a dye. Indigo produced a rich blue color, whereas the dye from wood was pale and dull, means not so much good color from the wood plantation. Then by the 17th century, European cloth producers persuaded their government to relax the ban on indigo import. So whoever the cloth producers were there in the Europe, So what they did, they just precise and they made agree to their government to relax the ban, means to remove the ban on indigo import. Means now they could import the Indian indigo in the European market. The French began cultivating indigo in, that is, Saint Domingo in Caribbean island, the Portuguese in Brazil, the English in Jamaica, and the Spanish in Venezuela. So some of the other cultivators and the producers, they also try to cultivate the indigo plantation in different parts of the world. Like they have given here in the, that is, Domingo in the Caribbean island mainly, and the Portuguese, they were in Brazil, and English in Jamaica, as well as the Spanish in Venezuela. Indigo plantation also came up in many parts of North America. So this plantation that was done by them in the many parts of the North America as well. By the end of the 18th century, the demand for Indian indigo grew further. Okay, it just raised so much. Then Britain began to industrialize and its cotton production expanded dramatically, as there were the industrial revolution which took place in the Britain, mainly in England. So the cotton producing of the cotton, it expanded dramatically over there, creating an enormous new demands for cloth dyes, and they were just demanding and creating a demand for dyeing their clothes. While the demand for indigo increased, its existing supplies from the West Indies and America collapsed for a variety of reasons. As they have told, as the demand for indigo increased, so its existing supply, whatever the supply they were getting from the different parts like West Indies and America, it collapsed, it fell down for a variety of reasons. Why it is so? They have given, that is, between 1783 and 1789, the production of indigo in the world fell by half. Cloth dyers in Britain now desperately looked for a new source of indigo supply. Okay, then from where the indigo be procured, from where this could be done. Then Britain turns to India for getting this indigo plantation. Okay, faced with the rising demands for indigo in Europe, the company in India looked for ways to expand the area under indigo cultivation. As there was a huge demand in the European market of indigo plantation, so the company in India, it looked for many ways to expand the cultivation of indigo. Then, from the last decades of the 18th century, indigo cultivation in Bengal expanded rapidly, and Bengal indigo came to dominate the world market. So from the last decades, in the last years of the 18th century, this production of the indigo, it had expanded in the Bengal presidency, and it dominated the whole world market. In 1788, about 30% of the indigo imported into Britain was from India. By 1810, the proportion had gone up 95%. 95% indigo that was exported from India in the European market. As the indigo trade grew, as it has grown, so commercial agents and officials of the company began investing in indigo production. So many of the company officials as well as the commercial agents, they have also invested in the indigo production. Over the years, many company officials left their jobs and look after the indigo business. So many of the company officials, they left their job and they indulge themselves in the indigo business. Attracted by the prospect of high profits, numerous Scotsmen and Englishmen came to India and became planters. So as they got much attracted for getting the high profits from the indigo plantation, so many of the Scottish men and as well as the English men, they came to India and became the planters here. And those who had no money to produce indigo could get loans from the company and the banks that were coming up at the time. So with the cultivators and the planters who didn't have the money to produce the indigo, so they could get the loan from the company as well as from the banks that were existing at the time. Then how was indigo cultivated? There were two main systems of indigo cultivation. Okay, that is niche and rayati. Within the system of niche cultivation, the planter produced indigo in lands that he directly controlled, and he either bought the land or rented it from other zamindars and produced indigo by directly employing hired laborers. It means to say, they have told here means two system of the indigo cultivation, that is niche and rayati. So in the both the systems, different kind of the procedure for producing the indigo. In niche they have told, so there was the planters produce indigo and directly control over the land. Either he will bought the land or rented it from other zamindars, or protect that produce indigo by directly employing hired labor. Means he will hire the labor, the planter will hire the labor, and he will go for this niche cultivation. The problem with the niche cultivation that has been given here now, okay, that we will discuss in the next video. Okay.